You look terrible. I want you to eat. I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
It's too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. No doubt if you've been on social media, maybe if you've been going around the news sites, you've been seeing that there's some blowback on Action Lab as far as some of their contracts, the way that they're paying people out there. And I have a good friend. His name's Gervais Dargan. He used to work as assistant editor for Milestone Comics, and he's starting up his own comic book company called Animated Concepts. He's doing his own contracts right now. Wanted to talk to him about this. And there's some crazy stuff coming out here. We know that there's always been some shady practices within comic books, and a lot of times within the indie, like smaller publishers, where they're kind of taking advantage of creators. And in some cases, the creators just aren't doing their due diligence to take care of themselves. In this one case, this artist, I guess, on the project that they did a royalty only contract where they would only make money if there were royalty payments, with like the trades and stuff. And then when he worked it out, he got paid like $17 a page based on the royalty payments and the amount of work that he had done into it. That is insane, Gervais. How do you get yourself into a predicament where you're working or putting out $17 a page content? That's crazy.
Yeah, and just as a full disclaimer, I have reached out and communicated with the creator. So just to get that out there, and I won't share the contents of that conversation. But the simple fact of the matter is, it is something else, and it takes a lot of courage for a lot of reasons that I'm sure everybody out there can imagine to share that story, because it's definitely right for if you get in front of the right people for people to just start dunking on you for something like that. But it's unfortunately apparently not only Action Labs, but a lot of creators in the business and publishers. This goes on more often than it should. Yeah, I think a lot of it is because we've heard it from other creators before, and I know Aaron has basically talked about this, is that it's sort of an exploitation of people's love and desire to be involved in the medium and in the industry. There is something about your name being attached to a character or to a story. It's something that you grew up on and you always want to be a part of, and that seems to be a lot of what drives this. When you hear from creators talking about it, it's like it's either their, as in the case of this gentleman, it's either the interaction with the fandom, the fact that they want to get the book out there. It's
they want to say they've been published by a comic.
Yeah, they want to say they've been published. Yeah, there's some element of taking advantage of that pride and just that passion to have that happen. And it's like, and in this case, this was something else. I think if anything, which I think would shock most people who know, is that the first three issues being done on a royalties basis. That was a bit much. Yeah, that was a bit much because as we were talking about before, you're practically working for free.
Yeah, it's crazy to even think about that. Why would you go to a publisher if you were going to take all the risk on board? The reason you go to a publisher, because they have the contacts, they know how to get the book out there, they have the distribution network out there, and they can take care of all that stuff for you. So you're taking a risk, but they're taking some risk on you, so by publishing your book and giving you a page rate or whatever. But once you take all that off of their hands, it's just content for them that's essentially free. They just have to pay to have the book printed and shipped. Like there's no risk on the publisher's part. Why would you even get into that kind of deal? You need to be in it together.
Yeah, no, and it's labor-intensive content. So it's like it ain't no secret about for those of us who are quote-unquote YouTubers and appear on YouTube, you're not getting paid to do this. But it's like, other than the factor of time, which if you don't mind spending time doing it and you get the exposure, it's not really costing you anything in terms of, other than, well, I could be, if I was doing something else on this afternoon, I'd be losing money that way. But it's like, this is something where you're giving up your literal labor. Your labor, and with almost a guarantee that you're not going to see any return on that labor. It's like when you're talking about independent comic book companies, and we just have to be real about this. And I would definitely advise everybody, is just to do a quick plug for Clownfish, because they're laying this out as well, is that you go to Comic-Con or you do any kind of research about what an independent book looks like, you're looking like, if you're lucky, between a 2,000 to 3,000 print range in terms of selling books. So
depending on the publisher, it could be normally lower than that.
Yeah, lower than that. So you're talking about when you talk about all the production costs involved and the manufacturing and promotion and distribution and everything else, there's almost no way on God's green earth that you're going to get paid based on royalty. It's like that I would say would probably be that would probably be definitely one of the things that makes what Action Lab Entertainment or Comics, whatever they call themselves, that what they've done predatory. I would almost say that
they knew it,
because you knew it. If you're doing the math on that, there's no way that you're thinking, oh yeah, this guy's turtle money. These guys are turtle money, and then more they're going to get this back. That's yeah.
And the guy renegotiated, and after that, he said, "Listen, I need to have a page rate moving forward."
Yeah,
and I'm sure it was about, I think it was like $125 a page to ink and pencil and ink. Maybe it was a little bit less than that. But even then, he didn't get paid for 2 years.
Now that one was just like, oh, come on. So it's like you literally are stealing from the man now. You're stealing from them. It's like anybody who's drafting a contract, just like what I'm doing now, and I'll read this from a sample I pulled off the internet. Terms of payment. 50% of the fee will be paid to, in this case, the freelancer, as a deposit upon signing of this letter of agreement. I'm going to change that to just agreement. An editor and freelancer will send an invoice for the fee. The publisher will pay the editor through cash, check, digital software, whatever. That's what's supposed to happen. And if you as a publisher, you can't pay 50% up front to a freelancer who is doing work for you, I would argue, much like I did when I first came on this channel about diamond distribution, you are not running a business. You're running a not-for-profit that's operating as a for-profit business, but you are operating not-for-profit because there's a thing called cash flow, and you're supposed to have enough cash to at least see your way to do
your expenditures,
3 to 6 months of operation to cover your expenditures. Yeah. And it's like, and it sounds like Action Lab from some of the stuff they've got staff and this is all this other stuff. It's like, bruh, you cannot build a business like this and take advantage of people this way. You just
it's absolutely predatory. And for the creator, he certainly bears some responsibility in this. Yep. He signed the contract.
Yep.
If you have a contract sent to you, it doesn't cost a ton of money to get in there, and have a lawyer see it and explain to you what some of the things that it's saying in there. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Maybe some people can't afford a couple $100 to see a lawyer. No. If you can't see a lawyer, a Gen Xer. We're the most cynical people in the world. Throw it in front of your Gen Xer, uncle, friend, cousin, whatever. Let them read it, and they will tell you exactly, theoretically, all the ways that you're getting bent over with this contract and say, listen, yeah, they're screwing you here, they're screwing you here.
Yeah,
Gen Xers have fun with that stuff. We enjoy it.
Yeah, because we've all look, and I'll say this, it's not to the creators to the creator or any of the creators' defense. It's like, look, this is nothing new under the sun. People in business have been taken advantage of since the time business first started, since Cain and Abel, or no, who was it? Jacob and Esau. People have been taken advantage of. But the thing is that, because as we were talking about before, I was having this discussion back and forth on the chat when I was appearing on Comic Aficionados one time, and we were going back and forth about how much responsibility a creator should have when they're taken advantage of by the publisher, if I'm representing correctly. And I think what happens is you have to realize when it comes to business, everybody has their own interest. You're not getting around that. Everybody has their own interest. Sometimes both parties or one of the parties will be mindful will look after their own interests as well as the interests of the other person, but you cannot rely upon that. You cannot expect that from somebody else who's trying to make a dollar. And sometimes they try to make a dollar that is fair. Like they're saying, look, these are my expenses. Yeah, these are my expenses. So in order to meet my expenses so I can do the next project, I can pay you this, and then so on and so forth. Or they're just simply out to do it at your expense. And is it right that person's thinking like that? Is it fair? Of course it's not. But if it's going to happen, then you have to operate with that understanding and deal with that person in that fashion. But you're right. And I'll say this, when the stats out there that pretty much over 60% of people can't even afford a $500 emergency, I think I can see why some people would be taken aback about spending $300 an hour to have a lawyer go over a contract. But as you can see in this case here, that $300 that you would have spent to go see a lawyer about this would have saved you at least $4,000, if not more. At least $4,000, if not more.
You gotta invest in yourself. And there was another follow-up. It was I think it was a Scottish comic book shop owner came in and was talking about his friend that had signed an agreement with Action Lab to have his book published. He was out there, I guess, promoting it for 6 months. And then when it was supposed to publish, it never got published. They never told him they weren't going to do it. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but the man went missing and they still don't know where he is. It's presumed that something very bad happened to him. They ended up publishing it digitally. And according to this comic shop owner, his family, the members left behind, have never seen a royalty check or anything. They weren't even told it was being published.
Well, I don't know if this is the same guy, because I think I heard of another story. I was listening to the Clownfish video, and they were talking about that somebody else committed suicide, which, you can't
that's what they think happened, but they haven't confirmed.
That's what they think happened. So, and so even with that, so then what you find out behind that is that now supposedly these are all Alan Moore deals. So, in other words, you can't get the rights back as long as the work is being published in some form or fashion. So I'm not going to say that I know all the costs of putting something on Comixology, but I said I can trust and believe that if whatever that cost is, it's almost minimal, nominal, minuscule compared to being able to go that route to basically secure intellectual property rights in perpetuity without paying the without paying the creator a dime. It's like these guys can't, in good conscience, good ethics, or much less common sense, think that in any way this is a good look. They can't. This is a good look. What you would do is you would
they didn't even want to admit that they signed an agreement with the man to publish his book.
Yo, look, it's one thing because this may come out. It's one thing if you offer somebody something, they tell you to go kick rocks and they make a bad decision. That's one thing. But it's like when people are saying, look, this is obviously going nowhere. Like, I like what one of the guys said, because I'm going to use that as a rule of thumb for publishing animated content. He said, look, if the pre-sales or the pre-orders for the next for the issue that you're currently soliciting doesn't even cover the printing for the next issue or issues that are coming out, just cancel the dang project. You put it out there, people said, you know what, bad, we don't want this. And don't tie up the rights for that property, keep the rights from that creator. It's like this, it's just in a very real way, it's like Todd McFarlane said that, used to say this, and then his wife called him out on it when it came down to, I think it was probably was something to do with that Neil Gaiman situation with Angela. I think it was appearing in the Spawn book. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And that's what it looks like is going on in Action Lab. It's like, because now technically, Action Lab technically isn't wrong, because the creators, the talent, the freelancers, whomever, even their staff, they signed these agreements. They're technically not wrong, but ethically, legally they're not wrong, but ethically, oh no. Absolutely.
It's going to be very difficult to support any Action Lab books in the future. There's been a couple I've liked in the past, but and here's the thing. Here's the truth here, Javaid. Yes, it does feel good to be able to say that you were published by the same company as maybe a story or a creator that you really admire. Maybe that's where they started out, or there's a story that was really impactful for you, and to be published by that same company means something to you and everything. But if you're going to take all the risk, go to Kickstarter and take all the reward that goes along with it. Go out there, get your name out there, go sell the product the best that you can. You're going to have to do it anyway. It's not like Action Labs has a big marketing budget, or a lot of these smaller publishers.
Apparently not.
There's no reason to get screwed over like this anymore. You got Kickstarter, you've got Indiegogo. There are platforms out there. You can go on and do a Patreon model like Brian Ball, to where you can fund these projects, make some money.
Start a website.
Yes, you can do webtoons. Those become that's a very passionate fan base that can make you a lot of money if you work hard and earn up, that kind of reader base.
Because this in a very real way this in a very real way makes Robert Kirkman look like a freaking prophet, because he made a speech about this a few years ago where he was saying, like, basically you don't need these guys, and this Action Lab thing totally underlines you don't need these guys, because as we were saying before, we didn't say it to this before that, you are literally self-publishing with this. With this deal, you might as well have self-published. What you have to understand is opportunity cost. So all the time that he spent on the first 3 issues, that time and labor is real money. That time has a real cost to it. And you gave the work over to someone who basically, the dirty dog, said, well, thank you very much, and then wasn't going to honor any of the spirit of the agreement that you had. And I think one of the reasons I suggest we could do this video or talk about this is because, please, people, please, if you are looking to get into the industry at this point, I don't care what industry it is when it comes to the creative arts, do not let these people do this to you, to artists anymore. There is too much technology there's too much technology, too much infrastructure at your disposal to do this anymore. It just is. I know capital is always going to be an issue at some point. I use myself as an example. You know, we established Anime Concepts back in 2012. My brother was going to serve as basically the funding for it, and he just ran into some issue, and then it got to a point where we got to it. But it's like, you have to get out of this head game that, you know, you absolutely have to sign over, you know, your life's work or your life's dreams or passions to a bunch of people just to be published. You know, if you want to go work for Marvel in DC, they're going to work for Marvel in DC. But just understand, when you do that, that's what the deal is. Your work for hire, whatever you come up with to do, they own it outright. It is what it is. But if you're, and
we've even seen Marvel's had trouble paying people.
No, and that's the part that gets me, is that, you know, we've always talked about, like, every comic retailer always kind of comes off as cash poor, you know, working out of registers. Now we're talking about publishers, and this is what got me as a publisher, that when he said that he didn't get paid for the work 2 years after the fact, it's like, what are these guys doing? And other than just stealing money,
did the creator get?
Yeah, none. It's, you know, and this is not to dogpile on the creator. No. Please don't let anybody take this as, oh, blaming the victim. I'm not blaming the victim. The person should have never been victimized like this. The publisher should have never. It is insulting that I have to go into a business, as I started going to business as a publisher, where somebody actually offered somebody a royalty deal. I mean, that's almost like, are you friggin' kidding me? Based on you being, and I don't know if Action Labs is considered small press, but I think they are. It's like, you have to be kidding me. You need to go ahead, and if anybody out there is an aspiring publisher, I'm sorry. As I told people before, one of my kid actually one time, what's the best way to go business? I said, at least get 15 grand together. That's your stake. If you can get 15 grand together, you can at least get started, hustle the rest of it together as it goes along. But don't you dare go into business with this pie in the sky nonsense. Like, you don't have to put any money up, you don't have to take any risk, and you expect people to do all of the work for you, and you're not in at least some way delivering a benefit. I come on to Wes's channel Thinking Critical for 2 reasons. There's 2 benefits I get from it. Yes, I get the benefit of, I get to talk. So now my wife and my kids are free. free. I get to talk, and I get to talk about comics. But the third benefit, which is the reason why you do it, is to get exposure, to get in front of the audience, to introduce yourself to them, so that when you do something like an animated concept in the future, you're building relationships, you're building credibility, and you're building up something else that's going to be very important going forward as you do business, guys. And understand it's because of what happened with COVID, what happened with the Great Change, the Great Disaster, what happened with the 2008 financial crash, what happened with a bunch of stuff is, now you're operating in a trust economy now. You're operating a trust economy. So we Gen Xers know that. When it comes to trust economy, man, you're going to have to do a whole lot of things now, because we've all been burned at least once, if not twice, in our lifetimes. You're operating a trust economy. I do not want, as a publisher, somebody who is freelancing for me or working for me to say, "Oh, he ripped me off," and and especially not have it be true. It's one thing if somebody wants to try to smear me, say, "Oh, he ripped me off." I got somebody out there like that, and we'll see if they'll resurface again. But it's what you don't want that to be said and for it to be true, because you're already. I'll say this. This is why unions exist. This is the reason why unions exist and should exist. Because are we serious here? Are we serious here? People talk about teachers unions. I get it. It's hard to fire them and things and stuff like that. But the simple fact of the matter is, the reason why a union exists or a pension exists is because they know they're supposed to pay you this amount of money for the work that you're doing, but they ain't got the money. So what do? They say, well, we're gonna each year that we don't pay you, we're gonna put a little bit of money aside so that when you retire, you will get the full value of your work when you're in retirement. So when these clowns, states, governments, whatever it is, come along and say at the end, well, we really ain't got your money, you just robbed all those people who made that agreement. It's theft. Period. It's theft.
It's crazy.
Don't you dare.
Seeing what's happened in Action Lab, it looks like, hey, if I'm a creator, there's a no-go sign there. I'm just trying to look for somebody else to publish, or preferably even if you could take the risk yourself, go do crowdfunding. Go find your audience, go talk to them directly, and get your product out there.
Yeah, no, and I'm for any of those creators, if they're able to give back their work, if they're trying to buy back their work, which I know with the gentleman whose tweet we're talking about, I am ready, willing, and able to promote and contribute to those efforts for them to do whatever needs to be done to get their work back, because this is pretty much highway robbery. There's just no other way to describe this. There's no way that you as a publisher, knowing particularly how the independent comics game works in terms of finances, in terms of sales, expected sales projections, things like this, that you would have the gall and the audacity to offer somebody a royalty deal. Now, there's some people that might be typing in the comments as they're watching this video going, well, nobody made you and nobody didn't do this. That's true. That's all true. You cannot take away the agency. You cannot take away the responsibility of a creator signing a bad deal. But it's like, at a certain point, that crap as a publisher is going to catch up to you. Oh, yeah, it is it's going to catch up to you. And the thing is, all you're going to be leaving in your path is your poor behind reputation and a bunch of broken dreams, shattered dreams. And it's like, really, that's how you want to go out? That's what you want to be known for? And maybe they don't care. But, that's not how I'm trying to go out. I don't think that's how you try to go out, Wes. I don't think that's most of the people in the audience are trying to go out. I want none of that.